Hello, episode 11 of the Many Worlds Tavern podcast. My name is Viserys Targaryen, King of the Andals and the Rhoynar, and I'm here with Rhaenys, my cousin. Hello.
The queen that never was.
The queen, well, that's a bit treasonous, but Chris and Kathryn here. Thanks for joining us, guys. We're hanging out. Main topic today is...
What makes a good game night?
What makes a good game night? And then we might have some House of the Dragon spoiler cast stuff at the end because
oh my god,
gotta get some stuff out.
Oh my
god. Cool. But to start, recipe of the week, we just made some peach iced tea. Very simple. Just brewed the tea hot as normal and then iced it down and added a big ice cube into each. If you like it sweetened, you can add the sugar when it's hot. You can to make it like more Southern style sweet tea because you can get more sugar in there when it's hot. Or you can make like a simple syrup to sweeten it. Yeah. What's new at Many Worlds? Okay, Kathryn's microphone is now working.
Yay.
Tea.
Tea was launched last week. It was a lot of fun, especially because I was out of town, so I didn't have to have like the sneezing attacks while bagging everything.
We bagged a lot of tea, and the chai, I thought the turmeric was going to be the worst, but the chai one, I think it has some spices in there that I have to take several breaks.
Yeah. Did you try it with a mask?
Oh, I was wearing a mask.
Did it help?
Yeah. I mean, it helped, but yeah, it was a lot. I mean, we just did it for like 3 days straight last week. So, so tea launched. That was very fun. Mm-hmm. Flipped over the website to that.
Website looks great. Thanks to Chris.
Thank you. Website stuff is annoying. Very frustrating. My friend Casey, who joined us at BGG Con, he's really excited about the tea. He's like really, really into tea lately, and he wanted to be the first to order. And then he was checking the site in the morning, and he's like, "Hey, man, the prices don't match on the like from the front page and the product page." So that was a frantic like hour and a half. And luckily, the support people with Shopify got back to me.
Yeah. And I was 2 hours behind, so I think like I set an alarm to like wake up before the tea launch was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But I was still like, oh my god, you guys have already been up for like an hour and things are going wrong.
It's good. Everything worked out, I think. There were some, trailing things after the launch, but tea's in people's hands.
Mm-hmm. Which is really exciting.
Yeah. We also sent to some of our content creators we've worked with and stuff. So it was really fun to see them like share the tea on social media. It's still weird even now, like it's a year and a half in, it's still weird to see like the stuff that we've been staring at for weeks, just like in a different setting, even like outside this building. So it's very fun. If y'all enjoy the tea, please let us know. We need some reviews on there. Right now, they're an unknown quantity. People can't tell if they're good or not without your reviews. So we would love some.
We did. I think our first tea review was a hibiscus, the Sacred Springs, which is one of my favorite teas. So I was like, yes. It feels like a turtle race and like my turtle is winning.
And sample packs are up now as well. So you can get a little taste of the tea before committing to a full bag. And we did get a full 9-bag order last week, which was very exciting. That's awesome. Hope you enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. Main topic.
Game night.
What makes a good game night? Are you hosting a lot of game nights lately?
I try really hard not to host things because I reach my social limit and then I'm like, I'm leaving immediately. Or I just like completely disengage. So I love it when other people host so I can leave and go home.
Sure. That's number one. Don't host.
But like, luckily, like my group of friends that like we do game a lot.
Yeah.
One of my best friends loves hosting.
Okay.
Which is a relief because she has a ton of fun with it. And she likes cooking. So we always have like fun snacks and things like that.
That's good. What is your favorite game night snack?
Probably hot Cheetos.
Hot Cheetos. That, as a board gamer, not a good choice for board game night.
No.
For D&D, I think probably okay. As a board gamer, no hot Cheetos.
I was going to say cinnamon rolls, but I think that's even worse.
That sounds... Yeah, that's.
But I think I've also I've just been focused on cinnamon rolls because I've been craving cinnamon rolls for like a week.
Yeah. Yes, hot Cheetos, my worst nightmare at game nights. The opposite of Kathryn.
What's
Delicious,
your favorite
though.
snack?
My favorite snack. I don't know. I'm talking about that hot Cheetos thing, but yeah, we eat greasy stuff too.
I will say a slept on snack. Which like I kind of forget about until I'm like at an H Mart or something.
Oh, yeah.
Dried seaweed.
Dried seaweed, which is not too messy.
Is not messy. It's crunchy. It's salty. It's delicious, and it's a fun little square that you can like fold up into fun shapes.
Yeah. Have you tried Dots pretzels?
No.
Okay. They're insane.
In a good way?
They're
or a bad
so
way?
good. And I don't even like hard pretzels that much.
Yeah.
I find hard pretzels pretty weird, like boring and or too salty.
Me too.
There's a seasoning on these Dots pretzels, though. I'm going to get you a bag.
Okay.
They're so good.
Okay. I'm excited.
Recommend. Yeah, Dot, if you're watching, sponsor the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, snacks. I feel like snacks and drinks are kind of a given. I mean, that's kind of just social gathering 101. Mm-hmm. Maybe have some stuff to keep people's energy up. Have something to munch on, especially in downtime, or like just to warm everybody up.
Yeah, one of my friends, we played. Oh wow! Just like this week on Sunday, feels like a lot much longer. But one of my friends made mac and cheese and brought that. That was really good.
Homemade food, that is a very big kindness, I feel, for game night.
Yeah, which I don't even think he mentioned he was bringing it. He just showed up and he's like, "I brought mac and cheese," and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Nice. And I think that's why I love making coffee for game night, because I think people are so appreciative usually when I do it. And to me, it's like super simple.
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't cost me as much as the average person.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
So I just, it feels a little special. The mac and cheese is a bit more special, I would say. If I was at a game night, I'd be like, dang, I got dinner too. How about game choice? Do you guys always go straight into D&D or your main RPG?
It kind of depends. I think.
Does everyone get there on time?
Sometimes we kind of screw around for a little while, but like we played Call of Cthulhu this week, and once we all got there, we like ate a little bit in the sense of like, hey, this is what we have available, and then we were like all already sitting and like ready to play, which was pretty unusual for us. But I will say, like with family, my family is much more board game centric, which is fair because there's a lot more of us, and an RPG is a lot more steps.
Yeah.
But for that, it takes a while to start playing. But it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think if I think about like the worst board game nights I've had, the worst is twofold. One is like bad expectation setting. Like if some people are there to play something big and like competitive and long and someone else isn't, that's a recipe for disaster. I think other bad things is like just like the style of your group. Like my group takes forever on turns, and we kind of just have a unwritten social contract that this is how we're going to do it. But if we invite somebody new, you got to tell them or pick something shorter.
Yeah.
And the other worst thing is if you don't know the rules. That's brutal. The worst is showing up to a board game night and then the guy, like the person hosting, is reading the rule book. It's like, oh no.
That's fair.
I entrusted you to teach us this.
Yeah, I have a cousin who it's like his job. And he married into the family. So like maybe we just kind of forced it upon him.
Yeah.
But I think he enjoys it. Like he doesn't necessarily play all the games, but he's a great game master.
Nice.
And like I have never been confused when he has explained rules before.
Yeah.
And he's really good at explaining rules. And they're a board game couple. They have like a bookshelf like this.
Yeah.
So it's nice that like I don't have to know what's going on because he'll tell me what's going on.
That is, an unsung hero. I think every group that doesn't have one should find one. That's important.
Or become them.
Yeah, if you become them, a lot of the time that's me. I feel like when I teach a game, I'm not going to win because I like have too much brain power making sure everyone knows their options or like we're playing correctly.
Interesting.
And then I feel really guilty when one rule is wrong or something. It's like, oh.
You should just lie to them so you can win.
Next time.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get like Flamecraft and then you can go play that.
Yeah.
And even that's supposed to be like a cooperative work replacement.
Yeah.
With cute little dragons.
It's cute. Yeah.
Just lie to your game group.
Let's do it.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Should we get Flamecraft? We really are enamored with that game. I think mainly because, Kathryn
I love dragons.
Loves dragons.
I love dragons.
But also we have that like peach tea with the peach dragons and it just goes with Flamecraft. So
yeah,
I think we need to try it for sure.
I've been not so subtly talking about it since we left Gen Con. Just every now and then like, I think we should get it. But cool. Yeah. And I think it's like their Kickstarters are being sent out because I've seen a lot of them.
Yeah, I think they're
like people that we sponsor and like other board game creators have been getting their copies and they look really cute.
Yeah, I think there's a copy at Coral Sword, so I may just go and try it there. I haven't been there in a long time.
I spent a significant amount of time my senior year of college at Coral Sword.
Oh.
They saved me from many a psychotic break, I think.
Coral Sword was open when you were in college. I tried not to be too much like, you're so young. But sometimes you say stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I think, that kind of gets annoying after a while. But, never mind. Never mind.
I am the youngest.
Yeah.
Even at the shop, I think there was one person at the shop who was younger than me, who had just graduated high school.
Yeah.
And then I was the youngest.
Yeah, well, give it time.
Yeah.
Because everyone was the youngest.
Yeah, like it doesn't bother me all that much. And people are like, oh, you're young. And I'm like, yeah, that's how time works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's going to be even more of you coming.
I was born before 2000, so that's the important thing.
Yeah, you're not one of those. Okay. Anything else for what makes a great game night? I mean, the obvious stuff. Invite good people.
I think there's, if it's a newer group, I think the kind of combination of different types of games. Mm-hmm. So you're not playing like abstract Euro games the whole night.
Yeah,
because those get tiring.
Yeah.
But like finding a really good party game can be really difficult. But like, shake it up. Try new things.
Yeah.
Do like puzzle games. Do some worker replacement. Yeah. Try a war game if you want. But like options. Options are nice. Unless you're like trying to play like Betrayal on House of the Hill and like sit down for like 3 hours.
Sit down. Yeah.
But again, that's like an expectation thing, I think.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. I don't know. This is kind of like a board game etiquette thing, but like think about the dynamic of the game as it goes on. Like, are you familiar with this term called king making?
No.
It's basically like if someone's far ahead and the table like it bands together to ruin their rest of their game to like get this person in second place to win. Yeah, don't do that. It's like funny the first time and then yeah. There's like weird, I mean, it's like a lot of the time that's not like expressly written out of the rules, but you know, some kind of meta outside of the game, be friendly to each other concepts I think are important for a good game night. Yeah. Anything else?
Many Worlds Coffee and Tea.
Yeah, obviously. Obviously. Let's go to Discord questions. You got Discord questions?
Yeah. The first question is kind of I think they're from TKO first. Okay. Again, about importing coffee.
Yeah.
About what it looks like, how that kind of happens, the pros and cons of like importing through an importer versus direct from origin with a producer, and how that changes, which I don't know a ton about.
Sure. Yeah. So basically a lot of specialty coffee is either sourced through an importing company or through a direct relationship. At Many Worlds, most of the coffee is sourced through importing companies like Inter-American Coffee and Genuine Origin. So they kind of help source these coffees. They have their people at Origin. They have great connections. They handle a lot of the logistics, getting the coffee to Houston, and Houston is a major hub for coffee movement. And
Houston's a major shipping hub, which I think sometimes people forget.
Yeah, for sure.
We're off the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. So that is a main way, and a very like for us as like a customer to the importers is a very simple way to source coffee. And you kind of have like a general like, hey, this is ethically sourced. They can provide a lot of transparency on what it was sold at origin, like what they're selling at, like all of this stuff is like accounted for. Another way to do it is through direct relationships. We have some of those, especially with our sister company, Boomtown Coffee. We have some long-standing, partnerships with that. There's some great benefits to that. Like, for example, you can make, selfishly, you can like lock in great coffees. But also it is likely more advantageous on the producer side to know like, oh, I've got this like yearly customer that like Boomtown we can buy seasonally with this relationship. A lot of the time, a lot of farms will do a mix of like, oh, I send direct to these people and I sell to the importer for the other bit. And yeah, both are definitely good options. Yeah.
Interesting.
I hope I answered TKO's question. I think I did. Was there anything else about?
TKO also asked about specialty grading, but what that process looks like.
Sure. That I'm more familiar with.
I have sat in a couple of cuppings now. And it is very wild to do it alongside people who have been doing it for years and who are very, very knowledgeable about coffee. And I'm just like, wow, that was crazy.
Well, I think so. Cupping, I don't know. There's a lot of, I have a lot of thoughts about cupping, but basically the way that a lot of specialty coffee is graded at least on the roaster side, is through this process called cupping. So traditionally, and this is changing because of the pandemic, we've changed the procedures, but I can talk about how we used to do it. We used to have trays of coffee. So let's say we're tasting 6 coffees, and we're tasting coffees. Maybe they're samples from a producer or an importer. Maybe they're samples from off the production line to make sure that we have good quality control. Maybe they're samples of more unique coffees to basically train our palates. So basically, let's say there's 6 coffees for each coffee, you get a tray. And on each tray, there's 5 cups. So this is a little different than what you've done because it's post-pandemic. But you take 1 coffee and split it into 5 cups and do that times 6. So like if it's a 6 coffee cupping, you're going to taste 30 cups of coffee at least once. So it's kind of rigorous, I think, not only like caffeine wise, but also like palate fatigue is like a real thing when you do a big cupping like that. But basically you take your spoon. Let me back up a little bit. When you do cuppings, you pour the grounds right into this bowl thing. And then there's like a level of like you have your scoring form and you go around and smell the dry coffee.
And
you
this is
notes.
All like standardized, right?
It's pretty standardized. Like now it's kind of up in the air because of the pandemic, but yeah.
But like each step of the way, like there's supposed to be like an agreed upon standard.
Yeah.
Of how to come to a conclusion of what the coffee is. Right.
So we standardized like this procedure. We standardized like the way even the like flavor notes that we try to keep them like within the same lexicon. And then the scoring. So we score things. It's kind of like a 0 to 10 scale, but most coffees we're going to deal with are never going to score below like a 7. So it's not really, it's kind of like an artificially 0 to 10 scale. If we scored a coffee below a 7 in any category, I can guarantee you it's not going to be one of our coffees. That's really low.
Specialty coffee, like quote unquote, is graded 8 or higher.
The idea is the summation, total is 80 or higher.
80
for the sum, but yeah, it's kind of an abstract limit. And you know, I think like even if we took some mass market coffee, like second wave coffee, I kind of doubt a lot of it is going to score lower than an 80 if it's like lightly roasted. But yeah, so we take these bowls of ground coffee, we smell them, we grade them, we write down notes, then we add hot water directly to these grounds. So there's no filter.
It's kind of wild. It's a really interesting brewing method.
And I think it's mainly practical. Like if you're, so like, yeah, a 6 cup or 6 coffee to 8 coffee cupping would be like the biggest we would do here usually. And that would be a lot for us. But if you're at origin or you're like an importer, trader, and you're tasting like 30 coffees, you don't have time to like brew them through a filter. So yeah, basically it's bowls of this coffee being steeped, and then we just like skim the top because some of the grounds float, and there's sometimes like oil from the coffee that floats up. We skim that off, and then we start tasting. So you take a spoon, you dip it in the cup, and then you slurp it. And if you've never done it, it's kind of weird. That's like, what are they doing? Usually you slurp it really loud to try to like aerate the coffee and get it across your whole palate to help you distinguish more of the flavors and increase your perception of the coffee, I guess.
It's really funny. It feels like a running bit.
Yeah.
That just like nobody has told me that it's actually a bit yet.
Yeah.
But I know that it's not. But it is really funny.
What it's like. And even here, none of us are really loud, but there are some people that are like ridiculous. Like when I slurp and people don't know that that's what I'm doing, they think it's loud. But in my opinion, on the spectrum of people that slurp coffee, I'm not that loud. There's people that are like room clearing, like it'll echo
That's so crazy. Like you're just going like,
yeah.
How can you get
and then some
so
people
loud?
have like a whistle to it. Like they get a whistle going.
That's so funny.
Anyways, it's very silly. For a long time, there's like a joke of like, if you slurp louder, you're like a better taster. It's just stupid, but yeah, it's fun.
So what are some of the categories that you guys are like actually grading in the process? Because like you smell the process, you smell the dry grounds, you smell the wet grounds, you smell once it's brewing as well.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or is it just,
you can. I mean, once the water hits it, it's gonna smell pretty similar. After you skim it or not,
and then you taste it. But like you guys are taking notes and stuff and documenting flavors and.
Yeah, so the different categories, there's fragrance and aroma, and that's kind of like the fragrance relates to the smell when it's dry, and aroma is the wet. And there's other categories like body and aftertaste and flavor. And then there's 3 categories that are related to defects in the coffee. And if you have defects in a cup, it's going to give it a negative score. There's like 10 by default, and then if you like X a cup, it's like -2. Or there's different levels of minuses based on how bad it is. And yeah, so that's, in my opinion, more important for specialty coffee. The 80-point thing, kind of you get there if you don't have too many defects. And interestingly, a lot of coffee now, maybe on the cupping table, might have a little too many defects, but we still want it. We still want to sell it because it's interesting. But then the roasters will have to be more diligent, like picking out the defects and stuff. And they'll even have like an understanding of coffees that are like misbehave. Like this one's hard to take care of because it has so many defects.
So what are the defect categories?
There's a lot of stuff, and Savannah, one of our roasters, is really, really interested in this. So we should have her on to talk about them more. But there's lots of stuff. There's like disease. There's like common like insects. There are things that like if insects get into the cherries, this defect occurs. And there's like names for all of them. And yeah, I'm not as advanced at that as Savannah, but those are the stuff we'll mark in the tasting. So that's the grading process. It's weird. It's kind of like a weird subculture in coffee that, a lot of people are doing it, but it is weird that there's such a procedure to it. And then pre-pandemic, now I think back and like, how do we do that? But everyone would sip. You dip your spoon, sip it, dip it in some hot water, and then keep going. And everyone's sharing the hot water, and that's disgusting.
Yeah.
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 And I remember even before asking, like, why is the hot water bowl so small? Like, shouldn't we have like a huge,
or our own?
But once you are in like a mode or like a procedure, sometimes you have big blind spots to what's gross or weird about it.
That's fair.
And
when I started at Boomtown as a barista, it was very, and I had friends who worked in specialty coffee at that time. So I knew a little bit about like, there was a lot more that I didn't know. But like, reading like the SCA guidelines of how big a cup should be, what size the spoon should be, what temperature things should be brewed at, the minutes you're supposed to let it sit, how you're supposed to scrape the floating grounds off the top. I was like, oh my God, there's like a full, it's like every part of it has a standard, which I thought was really wild. But like, it makes sense. If you're trying to get something like consistent.
It's because, it's in an attempt to standardize something as subjective as flavor. And I think that's a big thing, and something I didn't really understand. Like, how do you grade the flavor? In a vacuum, you can't really. the idea is after so much time of us doing it, trying to calibrate with other coffee companies doing it, trying to calibrate with these Q graders, which are kind of like the closest thing coffee has to sommeliers, who train to calibrate with each other and then go back to their coffee companies and try to calibrate their teams. It's kind of like a weird crowdsourced movement to put objective values on subjective things like taste.
Yeah. It's also like, if you've never seen a flavor wheel, I hadn't seen one, I think, until I came to the roastery for the first time. And there's like one that the SCA has kind of published. But there are also, you guys have mentioned that there are like different coffee companies or roasters who develop their own flavor wheels, which I think is kind of fascinating. Because like, just like looking at the wheel, like I could probably stare at it for like 20 minutes, just like the way that it kind of progresses and like the color coding of it. I think, you know, like, because to me, it's just like a really interesting way of like visualizing data that's very subjective. And I love data visualization. And it's just so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And like a good color coded graph, I love it.
Yeah. And there's very cool discourse around the flavor wheel as well. You know, as a tool, as a coffee professional, it's a really important tool to, you know, standardize this lexicon of flavor notes. But it's really interesting to hear discourse about like, oh, is this like too Western centric? There's like an aroma kit that was really popular to use called the Linné, and there's a similar kit for wine, but that's like has French origins. So that's interesting to be like, oh, there's these flavor notes that the developers determined were important. Then there was one that came out a few years ago that was like of Korean origin, and it's like, oh, they have like different notes that aren't on the French kit. So it's like, okay, maybe like what belongs on the flavor wheel.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
and especially because like you look at like cuisine across the globe, and it's so different. And I've heard you guys talk about this, and like our roasters talk about like being able to reference trying food and trying things to be able to reference notes in coffee like as specific as you can be, whether that's like, you know, 4-day-old kimchi or like cucumber peel is something that Savannah called earlier, like yesterday. That's like, it's so specific and so fascinating to like build out a palette. But yeah, like when you have coffee growers all over the world, it makes sense that profiles and notes and things would be vastly different.
But it's weird because it's like we're going from two different directions. Because there's like sometimes where if I say like my mom's apple pie, that's not good to communicate with other people.
Yeah.
Because only I know and my like siblings know what that tastes like. So like it's good to be super, super specific for my personal use, but I also need to make sure that I cover like, oh, this tastes like apple, brown butter, cinnamon. Like being able to communicate that as well is really, really important. So yeah, it's from both directions. And also like if I have non-flavor wheel calls, like, oh, this tastes like soy sauce. Like, okay, what is that? How do I fit that into the flavor wheel lexicon as well? And usually when you're a new taster, it's really good to go really, really general.
Yeah.
So like first, okay, breaking down soy sauce, that's hard. Well, first that's salty or savory. And then it's like, okay, let me look at the flavor wheel. Like where do those things kind of live?
Yeah. Because so the flavor wheel has like floral, sweet, like it goes like very broad, and then as you kind of go into the center of the wheel, it gets very granular of different notes and different things, which is again kind of fascinating.
Yeah. And like, yeah, if you can go with the most broad at first, that's great. I think Dean and Savannah also sometimes talk about just like, even if it's a color, like sometimes people taste like it tastes red for some reason. It's like, oh, maybe that's berries or maybe that's tomato. Like, what does that mean? So you can kind of break it down further.
Tomato is like the one thing that I could confidently, when we would try coffees at the shop, when you guys would deliver us new stuff, I'd be like, oh, tomatoes. It's the one thing. One thing that I could be like, yes.
Yeah.
When we would get a coffee that had tomato in it, I would be like, yes. If it was like jasmine or if it was like, lemon zest, I was like, I can tell that it's like citrusy or floral or something, but tomatoes I could do.
Yeah. And on the flip side, the consumer facing side and the marketing side, it's really, stressful to list flavor notes, especially if they're not really pronounced. Because I think a lot of people have had this experience where like they buy a bag of coffee, it says like blueberry pancakes on it, and you kind of like get a whiff of blueberry or not even at all. And that's a bummer of an experience. Sometimes it's good for us to calibrate ourselves in that way because we have practice at like removing the baseline, this tastes like coffee flavor, and then like getting into the flavor notes. But for a consumer, sometimes it's like not as appealing to like overpromise. And it's kind of like that setting expectations thing of, if I promise you it's going to taste like peaches and you don't taste it, that can be disappointing.
Yeah.
So there's many levels to the flavor stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, that was a very extensive, long answer.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's fun. And honestly, for us working in a coffee roastery, that's, as a barista, you get to taste a lot of coffee, but I never tasted as much coffee as when I started working here, where we used to do it every Friday. And also get to taste coffees much more like expensive than I would ever buy, or much more unique than I would ever buy. So yeah, it's very fun.
Especially like that's I guess another benefit of working with an importer is that sometimes like really unique, really interesting coffees will come across like their lap or whatever, and they'll offer it to people like specialty shops, so you can try the coffee that you can sell for $40 a cup. But like, because an importer is trying to like be able to like take it from the producer and get it into a shop, they'll be like, hey, like try this new cool thing, try this wild coffee that we just like have a little bit of. So it's kind of cool. And I basically have no frame of reference. I'm just kind of here every time.
You'll be tasting
and I'm like,
plenty.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's a fun experience. It's really stressful.
Yeah. Dean and Savannah are really, really skilled at tasting. So I think
it's really cool to watch them, but it is also very much like, ooh, it's a lot of knowledge that I don't possess. And I really respect that.
And the first time I had a cupping, I did have that feeling of like, is it a bit? Not necessarily with the slurping, because I kind of like, okay, wrapping my head around that. But once people started like giving grades and like really extensive notes, I'm like, come on, all of that.
Yeah.
But then the next person would say like really similar stuff, and then their like grade, their scores would be like within a point of each other, and then the next person would go and the same thing. So that was kind of like, oh, I'm kind of a believer a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a skill to develop. I know when I was new, I felt like it would never come. A lot of the time, everything smelled like barbecue sauce for some reason. Because I really think coffee has a lot of the similar flavors, like roasted flavor, cooked sugar, some savory quality.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think barbecue sauce really comes out a lot of the time.
Probably like why tomato is so easy for me, because I'm like, oh yeah, it's like savory. It's so identifiable. It's often roasted or like cooked. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Anyways. From TKO also.
Okay.
lore, maps, all cool things.
Yes.
I think the primary question of what she was asking was like, are we going to release a map of the place that Many Worlds Tavern inhabits? And the answer is, the goal is yes. Andrew has put a lot of time into kind of like, he has built a 3D model of like the brainchild of Many Worlds Tavern. And it's kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
Like, it's crazy. The first time he showed it to me before I like came on full time.
It folds.
Yeah. And he was like, he looked at me and he was like, did you know a soccer ball is actually just a D20? And I was like, whoa. But like, there are like layers to it, and there's like a whole concept that he has of like this very intricate, very fascinating build of what began as a tavern that like sits in the middle as like a central passing point through different universes and worlds and settings and all these things. And it's really cool. We should try and see if we can get that, at least like the 2D map from him. It's really cool.
Yeah, as far as releasing, we'd love to. I think TKO and Hirkali are also like you guys should do this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Okay, add it to the list. Like,
I do think I'm not the biggest fan of map making. I like looking at maps. I think they're really cool.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not Tolkien. I can't do that. You know, I'm not Christopher Poloni, like the hardback cover of Aragon, but I like looking at them. It's really cool for me. But I do have a couple of friends that I could probably be like, hey, here's this world that like our touchstone reference of Princess Isabel. Here's this thing. Do you want to make like a map of like this kingdom at least? I think that would be cool. But yeah. The answer is, the goal is yes. It would be a lot of fun. And a lot of the tea stuff that went up, the lore with that, like on the website pages. Actually, I tried really hard to not kind of reference Many Worlds a ton.
Right.
A lot of it was actually like my home games, and games that I've played or characters that I've interacted with, because I was like, there's just a very cool concept to the tavern itself. That like,
we'll leave Andrew to it.
Yeah, like I don't think I am the person to describe it.
Yeah,
the best person to describe
makes sense.
Yeah. From 10th, our greatest and worst role playing moments. Which you skew more towards games and less role playing stuff.
Yeah, I guess I have some in mind. Can it be the same moment? I think mine's the same.
Sure.
It's like
best and worst.
Worst for my character's situation, but best in that it was hilarious in real life. There was this dungeon trap. It was silly. It was like a staircase that just like cartoon became like a ramp.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just fell and took a lot of damage.
Oh no.
That's fine. I mean, that's the game.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh damn. And then I went back up the staircase. I did not know the engineers of this dungeon could turn it on and off. Like, and then they became a ramp again. And I was looking at my DM. I was like, no, the staircase came back. And he's like, yeah, it turned into a ramp again. And I was like, okay.
I was really scared.
I was like so mad at it. I was like, yo, you're telling me these goblins made this extremely elaborate staircase that wasn't a one-time trap? And he got me.
I'm so sorry.
And it was funny. And everyone was like, you should have known. I was like, nobody warned me.
There's kind of like a classic trap in like more like when D&D was a little bit more dungeon centric.
Yeah.
Of like a slide where you do that, but there are spikes at the end.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
So that's a big one. I was really scared.
There were no spikes at the end.
Oh yeah, my character died.
And
I was like, oh no.
I was just clanking around though in my armor. I think we were trying to sneak through.
Yeah.
And I fell twice in armor. So
I'm so sorry. For me, I think I've talked about it, but greatest role-playing moment is probably, so I'm playing in one of my home games right now. I'm playing a Aasimar Storm Cleric, who is the like literal chosen one for her religion, which I didn't make canon. The DM made that canon. I was just like, I think it'd be funny if she was in a cult and it had Catholic vibes. He was like, oh, you're the chosen one. But in like our first session, I rolled, he let me roll for a shatter because it was a rule of cool, and I got a nat 20, and it was like in character, like in game, it was like my character's birthday. I'm the youngest of the party. I'm like this weird religious zealot that like nobody
Sweet.
Everyone's just like, what are you talking about? And there was like one of the big bads kind of like across this bay. And I was like, he was like, if you roll a nat 20, I will let you cast one spell that will like reach across the bay. It won't have a ton of effect, but it will do something. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So I rolled a nat 20, and I think he thought that I was going to try to attack the big bad.
Yeah.
But I wound up casting Shatter to try and break the shackles of like the people of like my like village that were being like imprisoned. And the look on his face was a pure shock. And he was like, I can't believe, one, I said that I would let you roll a nat 20. Number 2, that you did. And number 3, that you did exactly the opposite of what I thought you would.
Yeah.
And I was like, the entire time, like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm so stressed out. And they're like, if we had stayed any longer, it would have been like, we probably would have had to interact with the big bad, like, total party kill for a session. Wouldn't have been fun.
Yeah.
But it was a really good story hook. And I think about that a lot.
Nice.
Yeah. I think worst role-playing moment, maybe less worst role-playing moment and worst like campaign moment. One of like the first campaigns that I was a part of, I had to be the only one that was playing virtual that day. So like it was kind of rough. And then like it was during COVID, and like I was like already not feeling great, and I was like kind of sick, but I was like dog sitting, and then I had forgotten my dice, so I was in a bad mood, and we were in this dungeon trying to like get to the center of what, like, we knew a dragon was there, and we had a dragonborn on our party, and it was like a huge thing. And I definitely clocked out for like 30 minutes in combat because nobody I get a little impatient in combat if like you're not trying to at least like look ahead to be like, okay, I could do this or this. Because like that's what I do. I spend the entire round until it gets back to me of like, okay, well, if this person moves here, I can do this instead. I can buff this. I could do this. But like that session, like nobody was looking ahead, and then like nobody was like looking at the map apparently, and I was like, I'm gonna hit my head against a wall. And then I was just like, I'm just gonna start casting stuff so I can get to the center of this and solve the problem so I can take a nap.
Nice. Yeah, sometimes it's like that. You just got a different vibe from the rest of the group. And
yeah, I have gotten more patient now.
Sure.
I am better about it now, but I'm still like, please at least know what your character can do. You can try the wildest things. Like, I'm cool with that. But if you like can't conceptualize what an attack is versus a bonus action, I'm like, we've been playing for like 7 sessions. Come on.
That's probably me. Sorry.
So yeah. I think
Cool.
this one was also.
Let's take one more and then save the rest for next episode. But yes.
Okay, cool. Also from 10th, what D&D item would you want in real life?
Oh man.
Which you might have a little less familiarity with.
I don't know. There's a bag that's like Hermione's bag, right?
The bag of holding?
I mean,
that's sensible. It makes sense. It only weighs 15 pounds max. Just don't put another one in it, or else you'll blow it up. And
I'm tired of paying for checking language. check-in luggage.
That's so fair.
I will become a Spirit Airlines stan if I didn't have to pay for luggage.
Yeah.
Not a fun answer. I'll come back to y'all with something else, but
I think practically, the immovable rod would just be really funny.
Immovable rod.
I think
where would you put it?
I could cause a lot of chaos with that, and I don't know if that'd be a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I'll cheat a little bit and say, like, from Many Worlds items, I don't know. I think the Farthian sword or Farthian club is just really sick.
Freudian slip.
I know.
On the Farthian sword. If y'all didn't know, there's a sword club typo.
I know.
But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
But no, I think it looks sick.
Yeah.
Or there's the candle. I could just keep going on. I'll just leave it at the Farthian club.
There you go. Cool. Thanks for the questions, guys. If we didn't get to any, we will definitely. We got a bank. We'll get to them next time.
Recommendations.
Recommend anything. What you got?
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon. That's a good show.
And Rings of Power. If you're a Rings of Power hater,
I should watch it.
Suspend your disbelief. It's fine. It's all make believe anyway.
It's fine.
People had a lot of opinions that it was like, this isn't what the book said, and it's like,
oh yeah,
they don't have all the IP. There's a reason that it's not what the book said. But anyways, that's besides the point.
Okay.
House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers.
We can talk about House of the Dragon. I think that's recommendable on my end as well. There's so much. I haven't watched Rings of Power, but we've both been enjoying Andor. I watched it finally because Kathryn was going crazy about it.
Oh, it's so good.
Chainsaw Man I watched as well.
Yeah, I need to start that. My anime night group I couldn't go last time, so they started.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. I'm like, all right, that's awesome. But let's just talk about House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Recommend if you haven't seen it. We're gonna spoil it.
Yeah.
We have. Yeah. It's good.
It's so good. It's so good. It's also really nice.
Do you think the dragon? What's the dragon? The big one starts with a V. Vagar.
Vagar. Yeah.
Isn't it too big?
No.
It's like.
Vagar's the oldest dragon.
It's massive. I get it.
Vagar. One of my friends was like, I think Vagar's
it's like as big as the castle, as the Baratheon castle, which is like supposed to be notably big.
That's the point. It's supposed to accentuate just how freaking large Vagar is. But like, one of my friends was like, I think Vagar is just so old. Like, she still thinks that like one of her original writers is writing her, and it's still like in the middle of a war. I was like, you know what?
Yeah, kind of going a little.
Probably a good point.
Yeah,
but it's also really cool having like watching the show with my friends, and my best friend was reading the book. So kind of getting like the coloring in between episodes or like the relevance of like, they didn't say it until the last episode that Rhaenyra is like a quarter Baratheon.
Oh yeah. Like
they were just like, oh yeah. Yeah. But like in the book, that's like a huge political point because she is her grandmother's Baratheon. It's like she's like, I was like, that's crazy. Why would you just tell me that now?
Yeah.
But in the book, the dragon fight at the end, there's a couple of different accounts of it, but like it's, from what I was understanding, it's agreed that like Aemond shows up back in front of his mom and his brother, and he's like, haha, look what I just did.
Yeah. Which I wonder if he's going to do that.
Yeah.
In the like, coming season of like, is he going to pretend?
Making it an accident.
Yeah. His face is really funny. He's like, oh, I messed up.
Crazy. And like, I mean, it's Game of Thrones. Most of them are going to wind up dying. Aemond deserves everything that's coming to him, in my opinion.
When Rhaenyra looked at the kids, the 4 kids, and everyone's like, yeah, it's time to send them out. I'm like, they're dead.
I know. I was like, oh, don't do this to me now.
They
I know it's
hung
coming,
on a frame extra on the kids and like,
poor Jaceres. You know, they filmed that dragon scene the same way they filmed Mandalorian in like the huge IMAX LED
like
screen
the 3D
thing.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I'm gonna be annoying about this.
That it's bad or good?
No, that is just really good. I think that method of filming is just like phenomenal.
It looks good too. I think I feel like
the fact that it happened after Jaceres gets into the clear sky and he like thinks that he's safe and he thinks that everything's okay.
He was dead.
And he's 13. He's just a baby.
Emma Darcy.
Emma Darcy's acting goes crazy.
Yeah, everybody's really great.
Her and Olivia Cook.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Crazy. I do really hope that they we mentioned it a little bit earlier this week when we were talking about it, like amongst the three of us. It really annoys me. There are things that annoyed me in the show, but like the thing that annoyed me across the whole board of House of the Dragon was like they kept being like, it's from a woman's perspective. It's all about the woman and like what like the patriarchy is doing to them. And I was like, well, then stop.
Too many.
Stop literally taking like 3 sentences in the books and making it a 45-minute sequence of watching a woman be in pain.
Yeah, too many violent childbirth scenes, I think.
Because it's still just violence against women, whether you think it's so or not. And we all know that George just loves to kill a woman in childbirth.
So yeah, it's a lot.
So I really hope the second season that kind of stops. Like the feet thing. The feet thing was so unnecessary.
You think it was unnecessary?
I think it was. You already knew how creepy that man was.
Yeah, but I think it was interesting. Well, they didn't have to. Yeah, they didn't have to focus on.
It didn't have to go that long. You got the message once she like put her feet up, and then took her shoes off.
Did you? I was like, they're focusing a lot on it. And
I definitely got it.
I like that. What's that guy's name? Littlefinger 2.0.
Yeah, he's the younger strong. I just can't remember.
Lucerys? No.
Laris.
Sure.
I think that's his name.
Well, I was kind of like, why is Allison hanging out with this guy still? Like, I know he's powerful, but... Or like, no, the other way. Why hasn't he turned on her yet? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, okay, there's some of this going on. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. I did think that they were going to end this finale cutting to Allison and like seeing her face, but I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they kept it on Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
Season 2 is going to be wild. I'm pissed that we have to wait so long though.
Yeah. I really wonder, like, to me, I think a big theme with the like women characters leading the show, I think a lot of it, along with, well, I think it's most clear with Rhaenys, because I think most people would be like, yo, just burn him at the coronation.
Yeah.
But her character is like, well, it's not my war to start. And
yeah.
Also there's like an underlying, like Allison came to her in her chamber, even though she was locked in there.
Although
there was like a mother to mother kind of connection.
Like the little flip flop. Because I feel like they made Rhaenys get over her son really quickly. Of like the little flip flop. I was like, that was kind of unnecessary. You didn't need the flip flop. She could have just been that pissed at Allison.
Yeah.
And like stuck it with Rhaenyra.
That pissed at Rhaenyra. Wait.
Pissed at Allison for like locking her in her room. Like you didn't have to like have a little flip flop of like Corlys being like, we need to walk away. And she was like, no.
Oh, I like that. I like the Corlys.
You like that?
I like how big of an idiot he is.
That's true.
Because I love that his whole life he's been chasing the crown, and Rhaenys is like, "You idiot! It's not gonna happen."
They're
and then
so in
finally,
love in the
Corlys
books.
is like, "You were right. We gotta walk away." And Rhaenys is like, "You idiot! Now's not the time to walk away." And I really like that.
That's fair.
I like that about Corlys and their dynamic.
I hate when I see them arguing because I know that they're just obsessed with each other in the books.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think I mentioned it to you, but there's a line of like, because he leaves Westeros several times, like a sailing journey, and he when they got married, he told Rhaenys like, "I want to continue exploring," essentially, and she was like, "Oh well, like of course, but I'm gonna get there first because I have a dragon."
Yeah,
and like,
she needs to like put that in his face more. It's like, yo. Cool ships, but
yeah.
I did like in the war room that he was like, "You're gonna need ships," and then he's like, "I got ships," and she like looks at Rhaenyra looks at Rhaenys, and it's like, "Oh."
And we got to see the war table. That was sick.
That was sick. I feel like
it could have been bigger.
They didn't know that you could put candles under there in Game of Thrones. Like the coolest feature.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so cool.
It was cool looking.
Anyways, House of the Dragon was really good.
Yes. Yeah.
So good.
2 years.
I really wish they made shows faster like they did in the 2000s.
I think it would probably get ruined, probably. Cool. All right. That's the podcast. Tea launched. Coffee is still going, of course.
Order some coffee or tea.
Treasured Realm.
Treasured Realm's coming
over the weekend. After the weekend. So
if you'll be at BGG Con, we'll have an exclusive Treasured Realm.
Yes, we are doing 100 bags of a con exclusive Treasured Realm.
That'll be fun.
And we're also going to have one at PAX Unplugged as well. Yeah, we got some cool news about PAX Unplugged that we are going to be collaborating with Keymaster Games on a booth. So
we'll have a pretty
medium-sized booth became
a pretty big
extra large booth.
We were like, oh.
Yeah, so we're combining booths, and yeah, that'll be very fun.
Yeah, we love Keymaster over here. They also have a Kickstarter coming up for a game they let us test play during Gen Con. It's very fun.
Yeah.
You should check that one out.
That's it. We have a giveaway going.
Yes, on our Instagram with Firelight Fables candles. Yeah, you need to just follow us.
Is it still running?
It will be running until November 1st.
Okay, perfect. So you have a few more days.
You can get a candle and a coffee bag, or a candle and a bag of tea.
Yeah. Cool. Are you playing any games this weekend?
I don't know if I'm playing any games. Okay. So I've got some Halloween stuff plans, which will be fun.
I will probably be doing games at a pseudo Halloween party.
Yeah. I do want to play some Dragon Age. I haven't been able to play the past couple of weeks. Then I was out of town, and then I was like, I just want to hang out.
Yeah, I've been playing way too much Marvel Snap.
Yeah, the Discord's been going off.
That's a good game. It's really good.
Marvel, I don't know what happened the past 6 months, but like their branding on games is like everywhere right now.
It's good. I don't know. You haven't really played Magic or Hearthstone, right?
No.
The Hearthstone designer designed Snap. Obviously not a one-person job, but he basically, like, in the community, it feels like when he left Hearthstone, it kind of got crappy.
Yeah.
So now there's like a lot of hype for this game, and it's really good. I like it a lot. And it's also like mobile game with the Marvel license. They could have destroyed us with microtransactions. Oh, plus collectible card game. That's like a triple threat of I'm gonna steal your money. But man, it's really like light-handed on the microtransactions. I feel like the collecting of the cards is like a really reasonable clip, even when you're free to play. Like,
interesting.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
like it must have taken some fighting from like the designers, I would assume, to be like, hey, we need to like take it easy because people won't like it if not. And in my opinion, it's really, really reasonable. So
I went down this like rabbit hole of Magic the Gathering, like early Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Just like by chance, like one of the podcasts I was listening to. Like just how quickly it exploded. But I was never like a trading card game person when I was younger. My brothers had Pokemon cards, which is like probably one of the classics. And I definitely used to try and steal like their shiny Jigglypuffs. But yeah, card games were like never one of the things that I got super into.
Yeah, I played Magic as a kid, but not very well. And not spending a lot of money, but then Hearthstone came out and I really got interested in that. And also the strategy of it. But yeah, after a while it got stale. Yeah. And Hearthstone is expensive to keep up.
I do like a deck builder game.
Yeah.
It's just like the trading kind of component has never captured my attention the same way.
Yeah. But Marvel Snap.
Cool.
I snuck in an extra shout out to Marvel Snap. I went ahead and made a Marvel Snap channel on Discord because I was like, can't take over the video game channel with this. It's good. Okay. Thanks, Kathryn.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.